where he only dreamt of what he was living in a normal life. The truth is, he and all of his other little human buddies in that film were prisoners of very sophisticated machines. The machines created an illusion of a normal life for the sleeping humans so they could harvest their energy and go on. Now, even though Neo is a character in a movie, The Matrix, and even though the movie is actually fictional, there are many scientists who are really arguing the fact that we also may be living inside an illusion of sorts. For all of its philosophical heritage, The Matrix was one of the most perfect cinematic fodder for alienated teenagers of all time. But 4 years after it was released, the Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom wrote a paper provocatively titled, "Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?" And that paper for me was a real eye-opener. The paper argued that one of the three propositions that I'm about to state to you is undeniably true, and we are still trying to figure out which one. So, the first proposition, Proposition A. The human race is likely to become extinct before reaching a post-human stage, which, given today's society, I totally agree with that. Proposition B. Any post-human civilization is unlikely to run a significant number of simulations of its evolutionary history or variations thereof unless it is for entertainment or teaching purposes. Or number C. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation that we design by our thoughts, our feelings, and our experiences. Now, this is known as the simulation argument. It's a wonderful piece of logical projection, actually. And there naturally have been several critiques of Bostrom's hypothesis over the years, some on some very complex logical grounds, and some arguing that creating convincing ancestor simulations still remains impossible. Some have even gone as far as saying that we're living inside of a video game. Elon Musk, who I'm sure you've heard of before, who is one of the most influential people in the world of technology nowadays, says there is only a 1 in a billion chance that we're not living in a simulation. Musk says that technology is advancing so fast that soon we'll be able to create games or simulations that are indistinguishable from reality. That means we could create entire artificial worlds with just a touch of a button. Sound familiar for anybody that programs here in virtual reality? Mm-hmm. Musk also goes on to say that he believes that we are living in one of these artificial worlds now. He thinks our ancestors created very advanced video games, for lack of better terminology, which simulated reality so well that the characters, who are actually us, believe we are alive. Now, guys, this gets even crazier, because there are some tech billionaires who are so convinced that we are living inside of a video game, they have hired physicists across several realms and scientists across several realms to actually break us out of that video game. Can I please get a portion of that check? Because I can help you out with that, I promise. But not everyone in science is sold on the idea that we are living inside of a simulation. One argument is that virtual worlds and simulations get good enough to be indistinguishable from reality. They cease to become simulations. They become real. And in truth, the subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what happens in virtual reality and what happens in reality alpha, or our prime reality. The appeal of this hypothesis and its shocking third option is partly that it's a challenge to the basic foundations of our perceptions, but it's also very paradoxical. That it plugs into some long-standing human guys, I'm having trouble saying this word this morning, bear with me, preoccupations, okay? Perhaps the oldest human story is that the world and all that we see and how the product of our Creator came to be is simply because we're living in a virtual reality. There has always been a kind of religious element to the notion of a giant simulation, a sense that there is a higher, pure reality, if only we could grasp it. And in fact, quantum theory does suggest that we have now grasped it. But let's back up and actually take a look at the game of life for a moment, shall we? So, upon birth, you're assigned a random male or female character, right? Okay? You're given parents, you're given a reality. And then you spend the next 15 to 16 years stuck in boring tutorials that really don't tell you how to prepare for life. But you got to go through them in order to advance to getting to the point where you're at the young adult stage, right? And that's actually when you level up your skills. And you need to start managing your resources. Hopefully by this point you've been given an allowance or you've gotten a part-time job and you understand that, well, unfortunately, money still makes the world go round. Now, the most important lesson in this game we call life, even if you realize it or not, but real life is nothing more than a game of strategy. Oh yes, there are some really fun mini-games, like dancing, driving, running, and sex. But the key to winning is simply managing your resources. Most importantly, as any successful gamer will tell you, when you put your time into the right things, you advance in the game. You see, later in the game of life, money comes into play. But your top priority should always be mastering where your time goes, because you get what everybody else gets. You get 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no changing that. Now, as with games, every single thing you do affects your character's state and how the game progresses. You see, think about it for a minute, okay? When you're tired, you're low on energy, you need to sleep, right? When you're hungry, you need to eat. That gives you energy so you can go do stuff. So you could say that even if this simulation that we're living in has become so real to each of us that it no longer qualifies as a simulation. Now back in the real world, the alpha world, okay? Or truthfully, back in the possible simulation I take to be the real world, technology advances abound. We are seeing rapid progress in computer science, including the development of quantum computers, whose vastly increased potential capacity would be vital for a large-scale simulation. Think about this. If we have the capacity to do this here, now, today, what could it have been like for some of our ancestors who had some severe technological advancements that most people don't even realize? And science can't explain. You know, when historians and archaeologists pull up these strange and unusual facts and objects and have no idea what they're for, it leads to things called conspiracy theories. Like aliens, you know, helping mankind out over its inquiry course. Now, I'm not saying that that's true or not, but I am saying this. Technology had advanced to a point where this may have been possible before. And over the course of our evolution, we realized that we have lost a lot of our history, a lot of our science and our tech that we used to have, for one reason or another, because history is written by the winners. Now, at the same time, there is continued progress in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, biotechnology, and other areas that would help create more convincing simulations. And we can see that with each new breakthrough in technology, we tend to make better, more convincing representations of the world around us, both now and in the past. If we assume that these developments continue, and with them our interest in creating simulations of the world, like we are now, then at some point in the future, 50, 100 years, maybe even as many as 1,000 years, or 100,000 years, our entire reality is going to completely change. Just look at how the advancements in technology have come about since the invention of the computers in the 70s. But if that is the inevitable outcome of continued technological advancement, well, unless like nuclear war or a plague or some other catastrophe intervenes, then it's quite possible, some would say with an overwhelming certainty, that it has already happened. And we are the ancestor simulations created by an advanced post-human civilization that is no longer around. We are literally a Sims character left on autopilot. Now throw in the complications of the multiverse theories, and I have great respect for those guys, understand that. And also the infinite number of simulated realities that are available to us now, within which there are so many countless other simulations, other